Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast Voice. I'm Quinn.
And I'm Riley.
So today, we are diving deep into a struggle that is, I think, maybe the most paralyzing thing an English learner faces.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you've studied for years, you know the grammar, you have all the vocabulary, but then the moment comes, you open your mouth to speak in some high-pressure situation, and nothing comes out. You just freeze up. It's like a physical and mental block that just stops you dead.
That is such a universal and honestly a deeply frustrating experience. Linguists actually have a name for this. It's the competence performance gap.
The competence performance gap. Okay.
Yeah, you have the knowledge. That's the linguistic competence.
Yeah.
But you have zero output in that moment. That's the performance.
So you feel stuck and probably judged and like you're failing, even when you know the information is actually in your brain somewhere.
Exactly. And our mission today is dedicated entirely to closing that gap.
Okay, I'm ready. And the sources we pulled for this deep dive, I mean, we're talking rigorous academic studies on language acquisition, plus, leading professional fluency coaching programs. They all seem to agree on one critical insight.
They do.
Your inability to speak fluently when you're nervous is, well, it's fundamentally not a language problem.
Right. It's a state problem.
A state problem.
If you want to speak well, you have to master the emotional and psychological state you were in before you even open your mouth.
So we're going to tackle this friction head on. We're giving you immediate psychological tools and this is the big one, the most powerful active training mechanism available.
The shadowing technique.
Exactly. Now, hold on to that thought because we are going to get into the nitty-gritty details of that technique, including this complex 7-step process that actually guarantees results.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the unexpected thing we wanted to tease. The research showed shadowing was hugely successful, but the students in the study, they had one major complaint about it.
Right, even though it worked.
Even though it worked, they called the repetition tedious.
Tedious, such a great word.
Yeah, and we're going to define exactly what that surprising word means and, how to overcome that feeling later in the show.
And to help you speak confidently about all this, your mental state, your learning process, we're going to be testing your knowledge at the end.
A pop quiz.
Get ready for a pop quiz on the key psychological and learning vocabulary we unpack today.
Awesome. But before we jump into understanding that anxiety, make sure you take a quick second right now to subscribe to English Podcast Voice and give this episode a like.
It helps us a lot, and it means you won't miss any future deep dives.
Okay, let's start with the physical experience of anxiety, because I think just hearing it validated is the first step to overcoming it. When that pressure hits, what is actually happening in my body?
Well, it truly feels like an emergency because biologically it is an emergency. Yes. When a learner faces a high-stakes speaking task, like a job interview, a presentation, or even just talking to a native speaker friend, their brain, specifically a part called the amygdala, it perceives a threat.
The threat of judgment or embarrassment?
The threat of judgment or embarrassment, exactly.
So wait, I'm not just feeling nervous, I'm actually in fight or flight mode.
Essentially, yes. That's why you experience these genuine physiological responses. Your adrenaline spikes, your heart beats fast, you might feel heat rushing to your face.
Oh, I know that feeling. Your hands get cold, right?
Your hands get cold as blood rushes away from your extremities. And here's the critical part. Your thoughts go completely blank.
Gone.
The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that manages language retrieval and complex thought, it gets hijacked by that survival response.
That makes so much sense. I literally knew the word simultaneously 5 seconds ago, but now that the interviewer is looking at me, all I can think of is the word now.
Exactly. And this brings us right back to the competence performance gap. The competence, the word simultaneously, it's stored in there. But the survival state, the anxiety, is sending this loud signal. Danger. Shut down non-essential functions.
And complex verbal output is definitely a non-essential function when a tiger is chasing you.
Or when you think a hiring manager is.
Yeah.
This is why you ask that classic, really painful question later. I knew what I wanted to say. Why didn't I speak?
The anxiety state blocked the words.
It did. The state blocked the words.
So the immediate solution isn't more vocabulary drills then. It's learning how to manage that threat response.
Precisely. This is the core concept we really need to internalize. Speaking well is entirely dependent on the state you are in.
Okay.
Jefferson Fisher's model, which was referenced in our sources, it puts the emotional state first. If your state is tense, your cognitive function is reduced, and words get stuck.
But if the state is relaxed...
If the state is relaxed, your full cognitive capacity is available, and the words they flow.
And that explains why I can sound perfectly fluent when I'm alone in the shower practicing phrases, but I turn into a statue when a native speaker asks me a simple question.
The pressure is removed when you're alone.
Right.
The pressure is the key variable. When you're alone, there is no threat, your state is calm, and the words flow. But the second you introduce judgment, even just perceived judgment, the body tenses up.
And that physical tension directly translates into mental friction.
Spot on. So the most essential mindset shift is realizing that English is not a threat. It is simply a tool. It's a bridge to connect with other people.
I like thinking of it as a tool. A tool is just something you use to build something, not a weapon that's being used against you.
That reframing is absolutely essential. When you view English as a bridge, a means to share an idea, a thought, or a story, you immediately reduce the stakes.
You stop feeling like you're being tested.
Right. And you start focusing on the connection.
That focus on connection over correctness must be a huge relief, especially when you feel like your brain has just, I don't know, hit its limit. Wait, that concept of your brain hitting its limit or just feeling like there's too much going on, it really resonates. I've heard the word overwhelmed used a lot to describe that feeling, but I never really get the full weight of it. Is it just a casual way to say stressed?
That's a great question. And no, it's actually much deeper than just stressed. Overwhelmed is an adjective that captures a very specific intensity.
Okay.
It means you feel emotionally, mentally, or even physically swamped. Like, imagine being in a boat and the water is coming in faster than you can bail it out.
Okay, yeah. Your brain has literally hit its processing capacity.
It's hit its capacity. It's when the stress, as the source material mentioned, it just spills over the edge. The volume's just too high.
So it's expressive language for incapacity. You don't just feel bad. You feel like you're incapable of handling everything that's coming at you.
Exactly. Let's break down how we use it with 3 really distinct examples to focus on that feeling of overflow. So for a formal example, the compliance team felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data received after the audit announcement.
Okay, so the cause there is the quantity, the sheer volume.
Right. Now, a casual one. My calendar this week is completely booked, and when I saw my to-do list this morning, I felt instantly overwhelmed.
I know that feeling. We often use it with words like completely or instantly then.
We do. And now for a funny or weird one. She was so happy that her excitement and gratitude spilled over the edge, and she felt overwhelmed with emotion during the graduation ceremony.
I love that third example because it confirms that overwhelmed is about intensity hitting capacity, and it doesn't matter if the emotion is good or bad.
Totally. Now let's put it into a quick, chaotic scenario that I think every learner who has tried to balance studying with work can relate to.
Okay, I'll be the person staring at the giant pile of flashcards and emails.
And I'm the supportive friend who sees you spiraling. Hey, are you okay? You look like you just finished a marathon.
I'm supposed to finish this presentation, but I also have 3 grammar lessons to review, and my phone won't stop ringing, and I haven't even had lunch yet. I feel completely overwhelmed with everything I need to juggle right now. I just want to hide.
I get that feeling. When you feel overwhelmed, the best thing to do is just stop. Take one slow breath. Don't let the sheer number of demands make you feel frozen. Pick just one tiny task.
Okay, 1 email. Just 1. That makes the whole thing feel less overwhelming.
Perfect. So remember, when you use overwhelmed, we almost always use the prepositions by or with to introduce the source. You are overwhelmed by the challenge or overwhelmed with paperwork.
Got it.
Now that we've diagnosed the problem as a state problem, we need to arm you with some immediate, simple, practical tools to reset that state, instantly when panic starts to rise.
Yes, please. If I feel that familiar hot rush of anxiety, the first sign that my brain is about to seize up, what's the fastest way to interrupt that physical shutdown?
It is the strategic, small pause before speaking.
A small pause.
Think of it as a circuit breaker. You have to create enough distance between the perceived threat and the verbal output for your rational brain to catch up.
And the practical steps are simple.
Incredibly simple, but they have to be intentional.
Okay, tell us the steps.
First, take a slow, deep breath. Ideally one that pushes your stomach out a little, not just raises your chest. Second, consciously relax your shoulders. Most people hold a ton of tension right there.
Guilty.
And third, use an internal affirmation, a silent script that confirms you are safe.
Like what? What kind of script works best?
Well, the experts suggest scripts that directly counter the fear of perfection. Something like, I'm safe, I can speak slowly, I don't have to be perfect. Connection is the goal.
Ah, I like that. We saw in one of the fluency methodologies that teaching learners this physical pause and then a self-affirmation, it immediately improved their willingness to engage.
It does.
I also like that the fix is both physical and mental. I mean, if the physical tension is blocking the words, you have to physically release the tension first.
Absolutely. That physical awareness is your first line of defense. The insight is so clear. A calm body equals clear words.
Right.
You have to be aware of the signs of anxiety.
Yeah.
Tight hands, a shallow, short breath, maybe grinding your jaw. Noticing those signs allows you to actively slow down that physiological process.
And this is exactly what those grounding techniques are designed to do, right? They pull your mind out of some hypothetical future fear and stick it back into the present moment.
That's right. And the most famous and accessible tool for that is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. It's such an effective way to ground yourself by directing your attention outward, using your senses rather than inward to your worrying thoughts.
Wait, ground yourself is a great figurative use of a really ordinary word. I mean, we know what ground means, literally, like keeping a plane on the ground. But how do I use it when talking about anxiety? I feel like I need a clear way to put this into conversation.
That distinction is key. Figuratively, to ground yourself means to calm yourself and achieve mental stability by consciously focusing on the concrete present reality. It's a technique to stop your mind from spiraling, which means, losing control of your thoughts or emotions, just going down a negative path really fast. You are consciously installing a mental anchor.
So the 5-4-3-2-1 method naming, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, and so on, that's a practical way to ground yourself.
Exactly. It forces sensory focus, which interrupts the abstract worrying. Let's look at 3 examples for ground yourself.
Perfect.
For a formal one. Before the critical shareholder meeting began, the CEO took 5 minutes in silence to ground herself and ensure she was centered on the company's core mission.
Okay. That emphasizes deliberate, formal preparation.
Right. And a casual one. Whenever those intrusive, negative what-if thoughts hit, I interrupt them by reminding myself of what I actually know, which really helps me ground myself in the moment.
So that shows its use in personal, everyday mental health management.
And a funny or weird one. He was so nervous before his first date that he had to physically touch the table and the chair to ground himself, just to remember he was actually in a restaurant and not floating in space.
Huh. I can totally see myself doing that. Needing to touch the chair just to confirm reality. Let's try a quick scenario where we apply this tool. I'll be the colleague having a sudden panic attack before a video call.
Okay, and I'll be the coach guiding you back.
Hey, I can hear the tension in your voice. You're breathing way too fast. We have 2 minutes before the call starts.
I can't do it. I'm thinking about all the things I might say wrong and my mind is racing. I can't concentrate on my notes. I'm starting to spiral.
Stop. Look at your desk. You need to ground yourself right now. Name 3 things you can see that are blue. Don't think about the call. Think about the blue things.
Okay. My pen, the sticky note, and the little light on the monitor. 3 blue things.
Good. Take 1 slow breath. You are present. You are here. You are safe. That's how we ground ourselves.
Okay. That helps so much. Okay. I'm ready. Great. So we often talk about grounding techniques or having a sense of peace after grounding yourself. It's all about finding that stability.
Right.
And once the body is calm, the next step in psychological management is addressing the racing thoughts themselves. The classic enemy here is the what-if question.
Oh, the worst. What if I mess up? What if they laugh?
They're hypothetical narratives designed to scare you.
I've spent entire evenings crafting those fictional disasters in my head. They feel so real even though they haven't happened.
They do feel real, which is why the strategy is to interrupt the fear by asking, what is true right now?
Oh, I like that.
You force your focus onto immediate, concrete facts and your actual strengths. For example, I know how to start a conversation. I have successfully practiced the first 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
I understand the core topic.
That shifts the narrative from paralyzing fear to actionable competence.
Exactly. And this leads us to the core philosophical anchor of many fluency experts, the connection, not perfection approach.
Connection, not perfection.
This philosophy basically states that the goal of speaking English is to maximize meaningful interaction, not to achieve flawless linguistic execution.
That's a huge mental freedom right there. You're telling me my goal is not to be perfect grammar machine, but just to share my idea successfully.
That's the key. If you focus on connecting with a person, you reduce the intense self-monitoring that causes all that hesitation.
Because real conversation is collaborative, it's not a test.
It's not a test.
Yeah.
Adopt that view, and you instantly reduce the self-imposed pressure that triggers the anxiety state. You are not trying to impress. You are trying to bridge.
Okay, we've laid the psychological groundwork. We know how to manage the state. But, I mean, anxiety also decreases when you know you are mechanically competent.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to move into the actual physical training that builds the motor memory to speak naturally. Let's talk about the science behind shadowing.
This technique is, hands down, the most powerful tool for transitioning that passive knowledge into automatic, reliable output. It's essentially bridging the mechanical part of the competence-performance gap.
Okay, so define it clearly for us again.
Shadowing is defined as listening to a target language audio and repeating it aloud simultaneously with the native speaker. You usually keep a tiny gap, maybe 1 to 2 seconds behind.
You're an echo.
You are an echo, and your focus is hyper-specific on sounds, pace, rhythm, and prosody. That is, the musicality, the stress, the intonation of the language.
It sounds incredibly demanding. Unlike simple repetition, where I listen, pause, think, and then repeat, shadowing forces me to do two major things at once.
That's exactly why it works. Shadowing is an online, highly cognitive activity. You are listening and speaking at the same time without pauses, which creates a very high cognitive load.
And repetition is offline.
It is. It has a lower load. It allows for translation and analysis. Shadowing eliminates that time for internal translation, forcing your brain to focus purely on the auditory and articulatory mechanisms.
So it's like it forces me to think in English by cutting off the route back to my native language.
Precisely. And this leads us directly to the cognitive science of why it's so effective. It's because it directly stimulates the phonological loop.
Wait, hold on. Phonological loop, that sounds very, very academic. Give me the simple version. What is the phonological loop?
Great question. Think of the phonological loop as your brain's temporary sound clipboard.
Okay, a sound clipboard.
It's a component of your working memory that holds auditory information for a few seconds while you process it. It's essential for listening comprehension because it allows you to remember the beginning of a sentence while you're still hearing the end.
So when I struggle to follow a long sentence in a meeting, my phonological loop capacity might be too small.
Exactly. And shadowing exercises this loop heavily. By forcing you to instantly reproduce what you just heard, you strengthen that temporary holding tank for sounds. You enhance your overall cognitive resources for language processing.
You train your memory to handle sounds faster.
You do.
Fascinating. And what about the listening part of it?
Shadowing activates what's called bottom-up processing in listening comprehension.
Okay, another technical term. What is bottom-up processing in simple terms?
Think of it like being a sound detective. Bottom-up processing means deriving meaning from the individual, minute components. The distinct sounds, the words, the pronunciation. You're building the meaning from the ground up.
As opposed to top-down processing where I'm just guessing the meaning from the context.
Exactly. So shadowing forces you to hear the subtle way, did you sound like did ya, rather than just guessing.
I see.
And this is crucial for developing the motor memory, the physical skill for complex English sound patterns, like connected speech and reductions. The consistent practice of matching the native speaker, that's what builds that automaticity.
And the payoff, I mean, what does the research say?
The research is really clear on this. Learners reported feeling more confident speaking English now because my intonation and fluency have improved after practicing this technique.
So if you sound smoother and more natural, your fear of error decreases, which directly improves your emotional state.
The two were directly linked.
Wait, I hear the word internalize used constantly in learning contexts, but what does it mean beyond just remember or memorize? How does it relate to the motor memory we were just talking about?
Internalize is the perfect word to describe the goal of shadowing. It's a really powerful verb that means to fully absorb and make something an automatic, natural part of your thinking or your behavior.
Okay.
It's the movement of knowledge from conscious effort, where you have to think about a grammar rule, to unconscious competence, where the skill just happens.
So when I first learn how to drive a car, I have to consciously think about the clutch, the mirror, the gear shift. That's knowledge. But when I can drive without thinking about those things, I have internalized the skill.
You nailed it. It's the shift from conscious knowledge to muscle memory. Let's look at 3 examples for internalize.
Let's do it.
The formal one. After 3 months of dedicated phonetics practice, the advanced student was able to internalize the difficult R sound and use it effortlessly in all contexts.
Okay, so it stresses the absorption of a specific physical skill?
Right, and the casual one. Shadowing helps you internalize the language's flow, so when you talk, it starts to feel natural, like you're finally speaking with your own rhythm.
Connecting it to the natural movement of the language. I like that.
And a funny or weird one. My colleague has so completely internalized the office elevator routine that he hits the button for his floor before he's even finished his morning coffee.
A humorous example of how behavior becomes automatic and ingrained.
That's it.
That's brilliant. The idea of something becoming ingrained is the key. Let's try a quick skit demonstrating what it feels like when you haven't internalized something yet.
Okay, I'm the student struggling with intonation.
And I'm the coach focusing on the sound. You sound frustrated. You keep speaking English with a flat, repetitive rhythm.
I am frustrated. I know the grammar of this sentence is correct, but when I say I want to go to the park, it just sounds unnatural. I keep trying to apply the rule consciously, but it never sticks.
That's because you haven't truly internalized the prosody of that phrase. We need to stop focusing on the spelling and just focus on the sound and the stress. Keep shadowing that audio clip. Do it repeatedly until the rhythm is completely automatic in your mouth. You need to train your ear and your mouth to internalize the music, not the text.
Okay, sound oversight. I understand the goal now.
Good.
So remember common phrases like internalize the rhythm, internalize the rules, or successfully internalize a complex process.
That makes so much sense. But for a lot of people, just saying go shadow a podcast sounds a bit vague. The source material gave us a very structured 7-step classroom model that lower proficiency learners can use at home. I think we need to walk through this step by step.
Yes, this structured model is crucial because it scaffolds the learner. It prevents them from feeling overwhelmed or paralyzed by trying to do everything at once. It's a progression of increasing cognitive difficulty.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1, listening. 5–10 minutes. You listen to the passage twice. The task here is just general comprehension, like filling in blanks or answering some preset questions.
And the cognitive goal of that?
You're familiarizing your brain with the content and the general sound, reducing the novelty of it all. You shouldn't try to speak yet. You're just warming up your ear.
Okay, so comprehension first. Get the big picture. What's step 2?
Step 2, parallel reading, 10 minutes. This is the first speaking task.
Yeah.
You shadow the audio while reading the script at the same time. You need to make sure you understand the meaning, so you might consult a dictionary or a teacher for confusing parts.
And the goal there is to build the bridge between the sound and the text.
Exactly. It's a critical bridge for recognizing connected speech later. It's a good transition, and the text is a support structure to prevent anxiety.
Okay, step 3.
Step 3, mumbling, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is a key step that people often skip. You shadow the audio silently or in a very low voice, and crucially, you do this without reading the text.
So you're just focusing on the movement of your mouth.
The articulatory movements, positioning your tongue and lips, and the intonation. The cognitive goal here is to reduce the high-stakes performance anxiety while focusing exclusively on pronunciation and muscle memory development.
Mumbling sounds liberating. It removes the fear of making a mistake.
It does. Then comes step 4. Check understanding, 4 minutes. This is a brief pause for intellectual verification. You review any difficult parts, verify the meaning, check pronunciation.
So if I'm a B1 learner, this is when I might look up words I missed during the mumbling phase.
Exactly. The goal is to make sure your linguistic knowledge, your competence is solid, so you aren't just reproducing meaningless sounds. It grounds the mechanical practice and understanding.
So we pause the physical work to verify the mental understanding. Smart. What's next?
Step 5, synchronized reading, 5 minutes. Now, fully armed with understanding and the muscle memory from mumbling, you read aloud with the audio again. The focus is on refining your pronunciation and fluency.
So the goal is to get really smooth, accurate articulation matching the native speaker's pace and stress.
Precisely. This is where fluency starts to solidify.
Okay, refinement phase. Now, step 6 must be the hardest one.
It is the ultimate test of internalization. Step 6, prosody shadowing, 5 minutes. This time you shadow without a script.
No script.
Your focus is purely on rhythm, stress, and intonation. You can use pause and play if you miss a segment, but you have to focus on the music of the language.
So the cognitive goal here is automaticity. You're moving beyond the map to just pure motor execution.
That's it. Your brain is fully relying on the auditory input and the muscle memory we built in step 3.
And the last step.
Finally, step 7, check details. 2 minutes. You listen again and answer similar questions to step 1. This serves as a progress check. You assess how much your comprehension accuracy has improved, and it reinforces the vocabulary and structure you just mastered.
It closes the learning loop and gives you a sense of measurable achievement.
It does.
That structured, progressive approach is brilliant. It takes the overwhelming task of becoming fluent and breaks it down into 7 manageable, non-paralyzing stages.
Let's validate this with the data. The research we reviewed, conducted in Yunnan, China, used this exact 7-step model over 8 weeks. The success was both quantitative and qualitative.
Okay, so what was the measurable improvement we can point to?
The quantitative result was highly significant. It proves the technique works systematically. The average listening comprehension score improved dramatically from a baseline of 12.1 points to 15.98 points over the 8 weeks.
Wow. Nearly 4 points of improvement is massive in linguistic testing, so that confirms the mechanical benefit. But what about the affective domain? How did the students feel about their improvement?
The qualitative log data confirmed the psychological benefits. Students reported significant changes across 2 areas. Linguistically, they noted an enhanced ability to recognize and process connected speech.
You mean the linking of sounds, the reduction?
Right, the way native speakers cut and connect the sounds. This made fast speech suddenly comprehensible, which reduced the anxiety of being lost in a conversation.
They moved from hearing just noise to hearing recognizable words.
Precisely. They also reported clearer, more natural pronunciation, which builds confidence.
And the other area?
Cognitively and effectively, they experienced improved focus because shadowing requires such intense concentration. They felt a boost in working memory, they retained structures more effectively, and most importantly, they reported a dramatic increase in motivation because they could successfully replicate native speech.
So they were actively overcoming the paralyzing fear of error?
Exactly.
Wait, that's where the psychological and the mechanical come together? That word paralyzing is so strong. How does it relate to the fear of speaking?
Paralyzing is an adjective that literally means rendering immobile or incapable of action. So when you say fear is paralyzing, we're being very dramatic, but it's also accurate.
It means the fear is so intense that it causes that complete physical and mental freeze that stops you from acting.
It's the highest degree of the state problem. It turns the competence-performance gap into an absolute shutdown.
So it's a difference between feeling nervous, which still allows for action, and feeling paralyzed, which stops action completely.
That's right. Let's look at 3 examples for paralyzing. A formal one. The organization's fear of committing to a new sustainable model became financially paralyzing, preventing any necessary innovation or growth.
So it stops action on a large strategic scale.
Right. And a casual one. I knew the answer to the grammar question, but the teacher's stare was so intense that my self-doubt became absolutely paralyzing. I couldn't utter a word.
That perfectly captures the moment of freezing up.
And a funny or weird one. My friend's indecision about which of the 40 different coffee options to choose was absolutely paralyzing the line at the counter for a full 5 minutes.
Huh. I love that third one. Indecision is a form of paralysis. Let's try a quick skit where we show that feeling of being completely stuck.
Okay, I'm the person trying to send a vital email.
And I'm the person watching you stare at the screen. You've been staring at that blank page for an hour. What's going on? You know the points you need to make?
I know the points, but I'm terrified of writing the wrong tone or making a huge error. The possibility of messing up in front of the executive team is completely paralyzing. I can't even type the first sentence.
That's understandable, but you need to break the task down so it's less paralyzing. Just type the date. That's it. Break the paralysis with one small action.
Okay, just the date. I can do that. And we often pair this adjective with powerful nouns. Paralyzing fear, paralyzing anxiety, or paralyzing self-doubt.
Okay, so the technique successfully fights the paralyzing fear by building competence, but the students still found it challenging, right? We have to address the tedious problem.
We do. Learners, especially those at a higher proficiency, struggled with a few things. Complex sentences, unfamiliar accents, like the specific challenges noted with British accents in the study, and particularly the fast speech delivery, often around 140 to 150 words per minute.
But the biggest complaint was the repetition.
The most significant complaint was the nature of the required repetition.
Okay, this is the teaser word. Why would something that works so well be called tedious? That just seems like a contradiction. What does that word really mean?
It's a fantastic contradiction and speaks to the reality of discipline. Tedious is an adjective that describes something that is too long, slow, or repetitive, making it dull, boring, and tiring.
So it exhausts your patience because it requires so much monotonous effort.
It's not just boring like watching paint dry, it's boring because it's a repetitive long task.
Got it.
The repetitive nature that's necessary to truly internalize the rhythm, the recommended 6 to 8 repetitions, is precisely what makes the activity tedious.
Okay, let's hear the examples for tedious.
A formal one. Due to the lack of procedural variety, the repetitive data entry work quickly became tedious for the entire office staff.
The academic or professional context of dull, repetitive work.
Right, and a casual one. I love knitting, but finishing this blanket requires counting every single stitch hundreds of times, and honestly, that part is incredibly tedious.
That illustrates required but incredibly boring practice. I feel that.
And a funny or weird one. My neighbor's commitment to sorting his spice rack alphabetically and by expiration date is a level of organizational effort I find unbelievably tedious.
Unbelievably tedious. I get it. It's the duration and repetition that create the problem, not the difficulty. Let's try a quick scenario where we address this challenge.
Okay, I'm the student complaining about homework, and you're the teacher offering a solution.
Sounds good.
I practiced step 6 of shadowing for an hour last night, but by the 10th repetition of the same 30 seconds, it felt so tedious that I almost quit.
I hear you. Rote repetition can become incredibly tedious. That's why we don't recommend more than 8 repetitions. We need to introduce variety. Instead of 10 repetitions in a row, try shadowing it 6 times, then put the script away and try the listen and answer method to make it less repetitive.
Switching tasks sounds like a great way to combat the tedious nature of the repetition.
It is.
So, we commonly see incredibly tedious, slightly tedious, a tedious task, or tedious work.
So the challenge isn't the technique itself, but maintaining motivation against the tedium. What are the concrete solutions based on the research?
The solutions focus on pacing and material selection. It's often referred to as the Goldilocks principle in learning. The material must be just right.
Not too hard, not too easy.
Exactly. For pacing and material selection, the material has to be challenging enough to drive improvement, but not so overwhelming that it induces anxiety or paralysis.
So if the audio is 150 words per minute and you are struggling,
you must use slow listening or reduce the playback speed significantly. For A1 or A2 learners, attempting natural speed immediately is counterproductive. Start at 75% speed until the rhythm is internalized.
So success at 75% speed is infinitely better than paralyzing failure at 100%. We should never be afraid to slow it down.
Never. And to combat the tedium of repetition, we rely on variety and consistency. The logs suggested limiting repetitions to the recommended 6 to 8 times for a single session.
And more importantly,
commit to a short, daily practice habit. 15 minutes of focused shadowing every day is far superior and far less tedious than one massive, exhausting, sporadic 2-hour session on a Saturday.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so shadowing is a mechanical powerhouse. It's great for rhythm and fluency. But real-world conversations require immediate, spontaneous interaction. How do we train that spontaneous reaction time?
We use complementary methods. One of the most effective fluency techniques that directly simulates conversational spontaneity is the listen and answer method, sometimes called the Q&A method.
Right, this is where you listen to a short story and then the host asks you dozens of easy related questions that you have to answer immediately and out loud.
That's it. The brilliance of this technique is that it accelerates the learner's cognitive processing speed and their conversational reaction time. You're forced to stop translating and instead retrieve the required English structure instantly.
And the questions are usually simple, right? Like, was the girl happy? Yes, she was happy, which removes the pressure of complex formulation.
It does. It trains the quick reflex muscle needed for conversation, preventing that hesitation gap. It forces you to think and speak in English, preventing your brain from defaulting to your native language.
Now, to manage the amount of material we use for these methods, we need a filter. I mean, I often feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of English material available out there.
That's where we apply the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, to language learning. This rule states that 20% of the effort yields 80% of the results.
So we need to apply our energy strategically to the high-impact zones.
Focus on the most important things that deliver fluency. For vocabulary, this means prioritizing the 1,000 to 3,000 most common words.
Just 1,000 words.
Mastery of the 1,000 most common words is generally enough to understand 80% of normal conversations. Prioritize consistent speaking, listening, and shadowing practice. That's the 20% over hours spent agonizing over minute grammar exceptions, which is the other 80%.
That strategy directly reduces the risk of feeling overwhelmed by endless material. That is incredibly practical advice. Don't chase perfection, chase maximum connection using the most common tools.
Exactly. And a final strategic tool is understanding that fast speech is often demystified by just seeing the transcript. Transcripts are essential, especially for prosody shadowing, which was step 6.
Why are transcripts so important, even when the goal is auditory?
Because they allow you to accurately map the auditory pattern of connected speech, how native speakers reduce, cut, and connect the sounds to the written word.
Oh, like seeing going to written next to the sound gonna.
Exactly. It reduces the anxiety that comes from poor comprehension. It pulls the words out of the auditory fog.
Makes sense.
And finally, we have to address the ultimate confidence tool, having a strategy for recovery from mental blocks. Setbacks are inevitable.
So how do confident speakers handle those moments when they get tongue-tied or forget a word?
They have a recovery strategy. We learned about a technique focused on managing setbacks, sometimes called the 4Rs technique. But in practice, we focus on 3 core actions when a mistake causes a freeze: recenter, return, and relax.
That sounds like a sophisticated version of the small pause we discussed earlier. Can you define those 3 Rs for us?
Of course. Recenter means mentally shifting your focus away from the error you just made and back to the present moment. You might use a quick breath or a physical movement, but the focus is on breaking that internal self-criticism loop.
So recenter is about stopping the immediate mental spiraling that's caused by the mistake.
Correct. Then comes return. This is the action phase. You immediately return to the conversation, often by just rephrasing the idea you were trying to communicate or using a filler phrase to buy time.
Like, let me put that another way.
Exactly. You don't retreat. You re-engage. It shows the listener you're still committed to the connection.
So I misspoke, I took a breath, recenter, and now I say, I meant to say, return. What's the last one?
The final step is relax. This means making a conscious effort to release any lingering physical tension after the mistake. Relax your shoulders, soften your gaze, maybe even smile. It signals to your own nervous system that the threat is gone.
And prevents the initial error from becoming a paralyzing anxiety attack.
That's it. That's the hallmark of a truly confident speaker. The ability to recover gracefully. They don't let one mistake derail the entire conversation.
All right, let's wrap up our learning with a common mistake related to one of the vocabulary words we focused on today, specifically the word that describes mental saturation: overwhelmed.
Alrighty. What's the common prepositional error you hear?
Well, since the feeling is contained in me, I often hear learners try to say it like this: I am overwhelmed of emails today. Or maybe, I am overwhelmed from the stress. Can I use those prepositions?
That is a very logical construction based on other verbs, but unfortunately in native English, that phrasing sounds unnatural. You would not say overwhelmed of or overwhelmed from.
Okay, so what's the correct way to link the feeling to the source?
Native speakers use the prepositions by or with to show the cause of the feeling. You are overwhelmed with the sheer volume of material, or you are overwhelmed by the complexity of the situation.
So we use by or with to indicate the source or agency causing the emotional state.
That's right.
Got it. I was overwhelmed by the presentation, or I was overwhelmed with all the things I needed to do. That makes a huge difference in sounding natural.
It does. And before we sign off, it's time for the pop quiz. You've learned 5 powerful words today. Let's test 3 of them.
I feel prepared, but definitely not paralyzed. Bring it on.
Question 1. If a task is too long, slow, and repetitive, often leading to dullness and a drop in motivation, how do we describe that task?
That is when the practice becomes tedious.
Spot on. Question 2. What phrase do we use to calm down instantly and achieve mental stability by focusing on concrete, present reality like naming 5 things you can see?
That is how you ground yourself.
Excellent. And question 3. What word means feeling emotionally or mentally swamped because there's too much happening at once, causing your cognitive resources to hit their capacity?
That word is overwhelmed.
Fantastic job. And listeners, if you got 3 out of 3, you are ready to use those words with confidence to describe your learning journey.
To summarize our entire deep dive, remember these 3 core concepts. 1, language anxiety is a state problem, not a skill problem, and you can manage it with simple pauses and physical grounding.
2, the shadowing technique, especially the 7-step progressive model, is the mechanical bridge that builds automaticity and motor memory, effectively closing the competence performance gap.
And 3, fluency is achieved through the philosophy of connection, not perfection, and strategic practice, guided by the 80-20 rule to avoid feeling overwhelmed.
Your micro-challenge for today is actionable and non-paralyzing. Choose a 30-second audio clip that excites you, maybe a clear section of a TED Talk or a news report, and practice the parallel reading, which was step 2 of the model, just once. Read the script along with the audio, feel the rhythm.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to English Podcast Voice. I'm Quinn. See you next time.
And I'm Riley. Bye.